full screen? Or am I? All right. I'm not on full screen, but I'm just going to start talking. Drew Outstanding here. We are here. Culture Warriors Unchained, officially episode number 1. Here we go. We got two awesome guests here. I got my two amazing co-hosts and our awesome producer in the background. Yeah, we had a rehearsal a couple weeks ago, and now we're gonna just kind of get going with this. This is gonna be a fun time. Talk about 3 topics tonight. That's going on in the news this week, today, whatever the news cycle is. Sometimes it feels like it's 3 hours and a brand new thing, but yeah, we're going to get going with that. So I'm Drew Outstanding, but the main topics today are Christianity is on the rise. So we're going to have David talk about that. The Trump console wars. So if anybody doesn't know, the console wars, even before PlayStation and Xbox, it was Sega and Nintendo. So a lot of that is coming to the close underneath the Trump administration. So he's sitting over the end of that war too. But anyway, the other one that I have is SNAP benefits, food stamps, whatever you want to call them. Those are supposedly coming to an end based on this government shutdown that we're in. But we're going to get into all that. I'm Drew Outstanding. You can find me, or I'm, I don't know, veteran advocate and just all around veteran of this past 20-year war on terror. Now I just get up and talk, and if I can't walk, I try to fly. So I'm going to hand it over to AK Kamara. Who are you? What do you do?
AK Kamara. I'm a man of many hats. I'm the Republican National Committee man from the state of Minnesota, which just is a fancy way of saying that I'm actually one of the deep state members of the Republican Party of the United States. And I also create content. And more importantly, I'm a husband, I'm a Christian, I'm a brother, but I hope to be able to have an amazing time and conversation being able to advance the cultural football here in Minnesota. That's really what I hope to be able to accomplish.
And David.
Good evening. I'm David Webster, and I am also a just conservative Christian military veteran living here in the Midwest. I've only recently gotten more involved in politics, and I think that we need more voices like the awesome guests we have here and our host, just to bring some common sense back into the conversation in this country.
Excellent. And for our guest, we have John Frankman. John, who are you? What do you do?
Hey, I'm John Frankman. I'm a Green Beret veteran who was forced out of the military for refusing the COVID shot. The last couple of years, I've gotten pretty involved in politics and have been advocating for service members affected by the shot mandate. Briefly ran for Congress and am just staying on it.
Excellent. And then Alexis, don't want to pronounce her name wrong.
Yeah, Alexis. Yeah, my name's Alexis Jurgens. I'm a college student in Minnesota. I'm 18 years old. I was originally from Alaska, moved here at 17 and loving it over here in the Midwest. I'm a conservative Christian as well. My biggest thing is just start continuing conversation and empowering young people like me to grow up, step into their adult pants and, becoming active members of society. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Excellent. I think a couple of us met or reconnected at the Charlie Kirk vigil in Lakeville. You were there, right, Alexis?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of speaking there. It was a great event, lots of people. Yeah, it was super awesome. That's where I met AK Kamara. I knew David for a little bit before that, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
Excellent. Well, let's jump right into the main topic, or the first topic, and that would be we're currently in a government shutdown, and you can kind of tell everything's still operating mostly, so you can tell kind of what's essential and what's not, especially the longer this goes on. And yeah, the news recently is these SNAP benefits, food stamps, are ending on, November 1st. And so if we got the article, you can pull it up there, Andrew. If not, no worries, but we'll just kind of jump into that. Me personally, I've experienced a couple of different government shutdowns now, and a lot of it doesn't change. I mean, hey, I feel for it. I was serving in the National Guard while a government shutdown was going on. We didn't get paid. Some people did get paid. They were under different orders or titles or this or that. but it goes on, then it comes back, and then the soldiers, the airmen, service members get paid again. It is tough. It puts a strain on everything that's going on, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. You got different things, you're juggling a lot, but at the same time, it's the politicians that are arguing over different things, and it's usually the ones that are saying we want something to happen. In this case, it's the Democrats saying we don't want this to happen, or we want a certain change to happen, and it's just not going anywhere. So now things like this are starting to pop up where these SNAP benefits are going to end. Anybody else have quick knowledge on this and want to say something?
Yeah, so one of the things I think is significant, right, is that there's this narrative battle that's been taking place. This happens with basically everything, but I think the thing that's most shocking to me, and I don't know about all of you, is how just blatantly lying the Democrats have been. Like they keep on trying to push this narrative that Republicans control the House, Republicans control the Senate, Republicans control the president's for the White House, and so therefore this is a Republican shutdown. When they know full well that you need 60 votes in order to pass this continuing resolution, unless the Republicans decide to go the nuclear option, and that's for a good thing. So this narrative battle of trying to pin this on Republicans has been relentless from Democrats. And it's just shocking because any person that simply just Googles just a couple of phrases is going to get the truth. 13 times. Today was the 13th vote in the U.S. Senate. Every single Republican voted to open the government by funding the government. And all but five Democrats, or maybe it's 4 Democrats, voted no. So the total number is 56. You need 60. You need 60 votes. So you just need to get 4 more Democrats to jump across the line and say, I'm going to support this, and then the government reopens. But what's crazy is that they are sticking to this narrative. They refuse to let it go. And that to me is just wild. Like, that's pure gaslighting if you want to try and blame Republicans. And one other little interesting tidbit of attorneys generals, my awful, terrible Attorney General Keith Ellison, have signed onto a lawsuit to try and force Trump to use the executive branch to do these emergency funds release so SNAP benefits can continue, and it's absurd. That's what's so shocking to me.
I would also agree, and just to add to that, is it's so hypocritical to me when I try to talk with people that are saying, well, if the Republicans would just give the funding, that's the whole reason why they don't want the budget to pass, correct? Like, if they would just give the funding to Medicaid, all these different things, then the Democrats would vote for it and we'd have a budget passed. But that's so hypocritical to me because it's like right now we're getting 0 funding. If you just would agree, we can talk about it later. Let's just get the budget passed because you're not going to convince the majority of Republicans. So to me, it's just also hypocritical.
Yeah, I kind of have that's obviously totally true, and it is the Democrats that are refusing to push this forward. And the spending levels are extremely high, and it's Democrats that actually want to increase spending. What I think a lot of people don't understand is the existential crisis, which is our federal debt. We're $37 trillion in debt. To put that in perspective, that means that every man, woman, and child in the United States owes the government over $100,000. I think it was $103,000 maybe a year or two ago. And at this point, it's going up, and there's no end in sight. And there's a problem with these continuing resolutions. It's the only solution we have right now to get spending going on, but we really should be moving to single subject spending bills, which is something that Matt Gaetz ousted Kevin McCarthy for, and which I think we need to be looking at and really taking seriously this existential crisis, which is the federal debt, which is why we have so much inflation. And with the SNAP benefits, I think it's something like 40 million people are on SNAP benefits, something about 12% of Americans. That's ridiculous. Now, our founding fathers, they certainly had a safety net that was for absolute emergencies, but to be doing this at the federal level, that's what's going to be bankrupting our country and ultimately could be our demise.
Yeah, to me, like, just to add on one little piece to it, is you're right. I mean, there's so many different moving parts to this, but like understand, like for the average person they don't care about politics, which can be frustrating to those of us that pay attention. The average person doesn't realize that the main hang up for Democrats, other than the fact that they're deranged and they don't want to give Republicans or Trump any wins, is because there is a Obamacare credit that was basically had a sunsetting clause that during COVID times, it basically gave all these credits for basically free healthcare, right? But the thing is that the one big beautiful bill specifically said in your funding formulas, if this money goes to illegal immigrants, we're not going to allow that to happen. And so, a long way of saying, Democrats are choosing to keep the government shut down, and they're willing to see 41.9 million people lose their SNAP benefits in favor of illegal aliens. And so that's, to me, again, to like the average person that's not paying attention, it's like driving that point home. And for a lot of people, they just like gloss over, and it's like, no, Trump's in charge, he needs to do this. And I'm like, yo, like Democrats are choosing to shut down the government, hurting conversation about this is unsustainable, and we already have so much money that's going on in welfare. And there's a report that came out today, actually, that somewhere around, like, I don't know, like of the 42 million, we'll call it, like 18 million, as many as 18 million could be illegal immigrants on these welfare
It could
benefits.
be. Like,
Yeah.
money is so fungible. Like, yeah, we're going to dedicate it to this. Or if a state does be like, oh, we're already going to pay for this, but if we get federal funding, now that extra 10 million can go somewhere else, you know, to illegal immigrants, to whatever the case is. You know, it's just that weird thing of just, and it's all digits, it's all money printing, it's all, you know, ones and zeros. It's just people get all up in arms about this stuff back and forth. And then, like you said, AK, like they don't really, the average person that's working 9 to 5, 6 to whatever, and then goes home and has kid activities, or they don't know all the nuances that kind of go along with it. They just see the main person in charge or whatever their state is kind of going with. And it's really tough to even break that down. Yeah, I heard legal, finance, and I think medical as like the three things that people don't really understand on a nuanced level. So they pay lots of money to other people to, you know, act like they have it figured out or at least do it for them. And it's really tough when you try to get people to understand that when you're at a bar, at a restaurant, at a coffee house, and they just won't hear it, especially for a lot of us here in Minnesota. What do
What's
you think,
really been
David?
interesting? What's
Yeah.
been really interesting to see is the difference between like the corporate response to this and then like individuals. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the clips of like there's a couple going viral right now of this there's this one of this lady basically telling us that she's going to go into Walmart in a motorcycle helmet and some big boots and some gloves and steal her groceries if the government doesn't give it to her. And to me that's insane. And like you guys are already hinting at, you know, there's this level of deception where people are, you know, assigning blame where it doesn't necessarily go. And you know, for my fellow veterans in the panel here, you know, we have a huge veteran homeless crisis, and they're choosing illegals not just over the American people, but also the people that defended this country that aren't getting the benefits and care that they need. And then on the other side of it, you have things like Walmart coming out today and saying that they're going to start boarding up and closing their stores in certain areas, certain cities, to protect themselves from the retaliation of people not getting their SNAP benefits.
Yeah,
and
I heard
people
some
actively
stat
saying
where
they're going
like
to come steal it.
Walmart workers, there's a certain number of Walmart workers that are on SNAP benefits. So it's just like this circular thing back and forth where they pay their, you know, whatever the other side says that, oh, Walmart doesn't pay their workers enough for living wage, minimum wage, all this stuff like that. But then they're getting subsidized from SNAP benefits that also work there. Like, it's just, the whole system is just kind of wild right now. And I don't know how it keeps going on for another 20 years, 100 years in this same kind of format. So part of me is just like, okay, let it end. And then maybe, yeah, okay, first of all, I am compassionate about the people that really need it and everything like that. But it's just gotten so waste, fraud, and abuse that, like, what can you do at this point other than, like, it's going to end somehow. But it's either going to be a sharp one or easing off it. But no politician is going to get backing for easing off, you know, any kind of entitlement program.
You know, one of the things that I found most fascinating and that I like to think about, like these experiments, like you're never going to find a time where a large group of elected officials, politicians are going to come in front of the American people and say, listen, we know that you've been dependent on these benefits, but we're going to cut them off. Because they know that it's, you know, political suicide. You're going to get thrown out of office. So this is a very interesting time to see, like, what does it actually do? And I don't try to say that to be flippant or push off. Like, I grew up dirt poor on welfare. We had back then initially food stamps, like they give you a booklet. I'm 41, and you could get change back, and there was all types of schemes where you would go and buy a pack of gum and you would get back change and all this different stuff. And then it moved to EBT, which growing up we used to call it the Eat Better Tomorrow, right? Like, 'cause you get a little debit card and then it turned into SNAP benefits. So I'm not trying to say like I don't understand that, because I do. But you want to know something that no one ever talks about, because fortunately we live in an amazing country. A lot of people don't know what it's like to struggle for a long time. The truth of the matter is, I helped my sister before she passed away go to food shelves, and she got so much food that food would go bad. Like, and this happens on a regular basis. Plus, she had EBT or SNAP benefits, right? So it's like, I'm truly curious how many people really, especially with support coming from local churches and other charitable organizations. I'm a member of the Lions. I'm a member of the Freemasons. We do food shelves, food drives. There's so many organizations. How many people would actually really suffer? And I think it's not going to be the number that we think that it is. So I'm kind of curious, man. Like, I don't want people to suffer, but like, what is it really going to be? But the other side is, what if people lose their mind and we have food riots?
That could be a part. That's kind of why I brought this topic up, because the riots, the protests, the No Kings, all this stuff is starting to get pretty heated. Fortunately, it is getting colder, so that kind of stops a little bit of the riots. But at the same time, the more the water keeps getting boiling over, the more it's just going to happen where people are going to get upset. But at the same time, we're going in the holidays too, and it's just wild. But the small government guy in me says, take care of the problem. And there are problems. People have issues, mental issues, drug issues at the lowest level. So it starts with the family, then the extended family, the church community, nonprofit organizations. I've got to know so many nonprofits that people just want to help. People with money are willing to donate money, and the people in these organizations know how to handle it well. And it's just like, instead we go not only to the state government, but to the federal government, say, hey, federal government, help out all these millions of people. And to me, that's not the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and AK hit the nail on the head with talking about people getting more than what they need. There's the way that incentive system is set up. If you don't spend the money, you don't get the same amount the next month. So they don't even necessarily, the way that incentive is set up, people aren't thinking long term about like, oh, I'm wasting this. And if there was a better distribution of that, more people would actually be getting what they need. I think the other thing is, there hasn't been a good checks and balance on this system from what I've seen. There's some people that make it a lifestyle that are actually able and capable of working. And, to mirror what you guys said, it's not that I don't have sympathy for people. I struggled as a veteran when I got out of the military, and there were programs that helped me, kind of get back on my feet and get back to where I am now. But I didn't make them a lifestyle, and I even was reluctant to take them in the first place, because none of that's free. When you take free money, it costs you something, and it's usually your sense of dignity and pride and
that's the way it should be. It should be a temporary
Yeah.
thing, and it should be like kind of an embarrassment, really. Be like, okay,
Absolutely.
I'm at rock bottom. I need to go for something like this that's going to help, and because it came from somebody else, it didn't come from the government. The government's just holding it and collecting interest. It came from somebody else. John, you dove into politics a little bit. Did you think about entitlements when you were doing your thing?
Yeah, I definitely thought about what is our Constitution, well, what works best. And it's doing everything at the lowest level. It's subsidiarity. It's, if you can take care of something within the family, you take care of it within the family. If you need the town, the city, state, and then so forth. And for the federal government to be taking care of poor people at this large of a scale, that's going to end up having a lot more bureaucracy, costing a lot more money. So I would definitely be in favor of looking at other options, such as, for instance, we have Hope Florida that Governor DeSantis, Casey DeSantis' wife, kind of pushed, and that's directing people to nonprofit organizations, churches, to help with their financial, food, medical needs. So I think that would be a much better solution. And as far as getting out of it, the difficulty is that there's no incentive for politicians to get out of it. And it seems like a good boys club, trying to get in there, trying to get elected. depending on who backs you, where you get your PAC money. And the PACs, they're looking out for their special interests, not necessarily for the average American who is experiencing inflation, who's actually the ones that are paying the tax for the inflation themselves. So unless we can get a lot of people into Congress to help do something like a balanced budget amendment, it might have to be a convention of states. If we can get enough states that are really tired of it, where the state legislatures come together and decide we're having a balanced budget amendment, I don't really see a way out of it.
Yeah. Finally, I'll just say that like it helps to have these sunset clauses, for a lot of these old bills, new bills, where, it's like, yeah, because any government program, there's no such thing as a temporary government program. It just starts and it grows and it transforms into all these things that it wasn't the original purpose. So I'll leave it there. But Alexis, I'll give you the last word on when it comes to this topic. Do you have any other opinions on this, especially from like an Alaskan, I guess, perspective?
I mean, yeah, it's a very needed thing. I have known many people, especially like friends, that have needed food stamps, that have needed these resources. And as someone who's involved with like Turning Point USA, I'm kind of in the business of wanting to change people's mindsets before we change policy. Because if we just start changing policy and just trying to get politicians in there, who's really going to listen? We're going to have these riots or these, the Walmart, everything we talked about the protests and different things like that. Is I think we need to, you kind of hit the nail on the head. People aren't shameful of it anymore. People feel so entitled that this is what the government owes me. This is what the world owes me. And I should, if their government's not going to give it to me, I'm going to take it. We need to keep encouraging people to take pride in the things that they've gotten and the blessings that they have, and also incentivizing people to working harder to getting out of those situations. Because like you said, like the with the food bank thing, if you don't spend that much money, you're not going to get it next month. We should be encouraging people to spending less every single time, and I think that will kind of start helping. I think that's kind of where we have to start, is just changing people's minds and incentivizing people to working harder for themselves. I'm not entirely sure how that looks. I haven't fleshed it out in a legislative way, but this is what I'm seeing, is just politicians saying, we're going to ban this, we're going to change that, we're going to move this policy, and then the left or the right freaking out about it, And so that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like it's tough to change it, but the incentivization is a much better way of looking at it. Be like, okay, you want to get SNAP benefits, then you're also gonna clean up the highway. I don't know, something.
Right. Yes.
Read the kid, something like that, where there's a counter to it. But I'll leave it right there. That was a great topic. I'm gonna throw it over to AK and to talk about your thing.
So a lot of people know that President Trump is the greatest peacemaker in, I would say, probably the history of the world. And I know it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but the man has been making peace deals since his first term, his second term. He's been amazing at it because he understands that for most human beings, like the United States, we carry a giant carrot. The idea of having economic prosperity is huge. And so Trump is like, I'll talk to anyone, and you know what? Let's sweeten the pot. And so the greatest thing happened to me from a cultural standpoint is that Halo, game system has been on Xbox since its inception. And they announced that they were going to be basically re-releasing original Halo, but with some new additions. But they announced that they are going to be releasing it across multiple platforms. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up, I was an Xbox guy. And I hated PlayStation. Like, if I went to a buddy's place and he wanted to play PlayStation, I'm like, dude, I'm out. Like, I'm good. So, like, I don't know, like, any of the, Final Fantasy? Like, I never played Final Fantasy because that was locked to PlayStation, at least back when I was growing up. And so the best part about this story is that GameStop released basically a press release, and they said, this is the end of the console wars. And then the White House was on it. They were Johnny on the spot. And they came out and they were like, President Trump presides over the end of the 20-year console war. And they ate it up. The best part, though, is that the left apoplectic, especially the lefty gamers out there, they're like, how dare you? And it's amazing because Trump truly does understand the pulse of the people. Obviously, Trump's team as well. It's not Trump necessarily putting all the posts out there. But yeah, man, I'm just curious, like, from each of your perspectives, like, the broader sense of how do you feel about how Trump's administration, whether we're talking about DHS or we're talking about ICE or we're talking about transportation, how they're able to actually hit these cultural strides just with everything they're doing. My favorite out of all the cultural things was when Secretary of War's, I can't remember his name now, but his press guy responded with "Your mom bought it" in regards to Secretary Higgins' tie when he was talking, and that to me is how you have cultural relevance. So I'm just curious on everyone's kind of perception of how President Trump is doing when it comes to having success in these cultural battles of like moving the needle to make it acceptable to be cool to be on the right. And then secondly, I'm just genuinely curious if this excites you that now Halo is going to be across all.
Well, yeah, I'll just go. I'm the opposite. I was a big Xbox guy, or no, sorry, PlayStation guy. PlayStation 2 was my jam when that came out, and my friends had Xbox, and I played Halo with them, and that's how I got good at that. But yeah, I fell in love with Halo. Basically high school for PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and then college and Army was all Xbox 360, and Halo was the best thing ever. That multiplayer, that online stuff was just absolutely amazing. But like you said, the console wars, they went back and forth, and competition is good. That's why we have this stuff. But all these things with Disney buying up everything and all this superhero stuff, it's all just a cultural decay right now. But going off what you said, AK, is yeah, I'm loving it. I don't know if you're seeing all the JD Advanced kind of stuff going on. It is hilarious. Like going back to Turning Point America Fest the last couple of years, I've been there with John and AK the last couple, and it was great. The first time I saw Benny Johnson up there, and I'm like, who is this guy that's like posting memes and videos? I'm like, I thought this was a serious thing, but then I just started laughing, and that's like what we need to do is, it just celebrate the culture, have some fun, poke jokes. Even like South Park is, doing their thing right now and poking back and forth. And JD is he's like, yep, I'm all for it. Going back to Charlie Kirk, he changed his profile picture to the Cartman thing. And it's just like, we got to laugh at this stuff because the other side just does not do that. And when I say the other side, I just mean people that deconstruct or destruct the basically break down culture. And we need to be building it up both, in policy, but also having a good time too.
Yeah, and if I can, oh, sorry, are you talking? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Like just as someone who's Gen Z, this is something that I've been saying like since like as soon as I started getting interested in politics. I was like, it is so boring. No one is gonna want to vote in my generation. No one's gonna care. And so seeing this actually does really excite me. It's exactly how to get my brain rotted generation onto the voting track, onto seeing the Republican side not as just like my racist grandpa watches Fox News, like it's something that they can also engage with. I don't know if you guys follow the White House on TikTok. You should. It is absolutely hilarious. Whoever is in charge of the White House's TikTok is amazing. But I think that it's really great. And I think that, it says a lot about where we are at as a culture, I think. So maybe that's not great, but I think that it's good that the Republican side is feeding into that. I think the Democrats kind of did it first. Kamala Harris had her brat summer when we were doing, the election and everything. And they kind of had the upper hand because of that. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the brat summer fad that was going around for a while.
That's all I know.
It was very lame, but it got a lot of female votes because of it. And so I think that keeping this is actually really beneficial, and it makes it seem a little unserious, which is what Gen Z is. We are very unserious.
Well, and Charlie Kirk had even said that politics is downstream of culture, so we have to be involved in the culture and what's popular, what's going on. We need to be engaged in that. Like I see AK has Captain America behind him, and we talked about that a little before the show. And it's like, that's a character that was a patriot. He was strong Christian conservative values and growing up, that was one of my favorite characters to read his comics. But as for the culture wars, I'm very excited about that because I was like AK. I was an Xbox kid my whole life. I did the N64 before that. And so I just like seeing that. I think, not to date myself, but my nephew on his Xbox, he can play GoldenEye from the N64 on there. And I was trying to explain how incredible that game was during our childhood, and he just stared at me like I was speaking another language. But it's cool to see that you'll be able to have access to things like that across platforms. And it just speaks to Trump's ability to be on the cultural pulse with things like that.
I haven't played video games probably since getting out of high school, but definitely enjoyed them when I was younger. Yeah, life happens. You can't really play it in Ranger School, especially for its qualification course, but or the seminary really too much. I spent some time in seminary before going on active duty. But yeah, it was definitely a good time. Had an Xbox, I think the N64 beforehand. Really enjoyed Halo. Relating to the culture is such an important point. And David, you mentioned Captain America. I'm much more of a DC guy. It's actually kind of hurt me that Marvel has done so good in their movie productions. I was a huge Superman fan, and actually during college, I dressed up as the Green Lantern and the Flash for a summer job at Six Flags. So that was quite a good time. And just seeing those movies come out, seeing like the Mortal Kombat movies come out, the superhero movies come out. We do have such an amazing American culture. And you go overseas, like I go to Europe a good bit. They have our music. They watch our movies. So to celebrate it, to relate to it, I think that's a very important thing and something that politicians are going to have to do in order to try to relate to the common person. We can hope that they're going to get more politically involved, but the kind of in their nature, especially going through the whole COVID time, I'm finding more so that people aren't as critically thinking as you'd necessarily want. So how do you then reach them? How do we take this problem and reach out to them rather than expecting them to change and be like us, where they're news junkies? How do we get to them? And I think that this kind of political, this is just hilarious. The Halo thing, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw on kind of a couple little things too from a nostalgic viewpoint. 100% Nintendo 64 playing GoldenEye. Ain't nothing better than that, man. I mean, like just the music,
Amen,
like
brother.
it's dope. And I also will say that to me, I think there's been this paradigm shift, and it could just be because millennials. I'm 41. I'm an elder millennial. Like we're coming into like I guess political power, and so you're going to see more of the things that are funny to us and that are relevant to us. And we're still a decent percentage of the population. So I think you're going to see some of that, just kind of like a general kind of attitude of like the memification of everything. But I do want to say that it's like not even close. Like the difference between DC and Marvel, like Superman versus like basically anyone in the Marvel universe, like forget about it, man. And you can't even like Superman is basically like in the world of comics, like he's basically God. So to me there's never been a contest. Like the whole idea of comparing the two, I always thought was stupid because Marvel is garbage compared to DC. So shout out to all the Marvel fans.
A lot of the writing, like the last Superman movie that came out recently with James Gunn, just tanked. It was pretty horrible because of the writing, because of the agendas, and they can't even make good quality things right now because you can go into DEI, you can say all this stuff, all the hiring managers, all the compliance that's all involved in these movie making and where the funding comes from and all this stuff. And yeah, they're just not making good things right now. And I think Alexis, you mentioned that the right isn't making the best content, but it's kind of getting there eventually. But YouTube, I saw a recent study article that YouTube is where everyone's watching stuff. It's not cable TV. It's not Netflix. It's not a lot of the streaming. People are getting their screen time from YouTube right now and other things for sure. But that's so the people that are making content right now, and a lot of people are actually not just talking about things on YouTube, they're actually making really cool stuff that people are kind of jumping on. So there's something there.
And I
sure.
feel like also kind of what you said, like the the storylines are tanking. And I think the biggest thing too is people are thirsty for something more than just themselves and just that whole like the DEI, like finding your identity and being true to yourself. And we're gonna probably get to this into David's topic as well. But and AK, you hit it on the head. It was like Superman was supposed to be like this god character, this Aslan, like that kind of character that he doesn't have to go through the character development. He's kind of like the moral character. But instead, the left kind of taken it and made it so that, now Superman has to find his identity and become, part of a different culture or whatever it is, and it flops because it's too surface level. And I think people like right now, we are not critically thinking. Right now, we are so surface level and unserious. And I think people are realizing that and they're wanting to get deeper. They just don't know what it is yet.
Well, I think a huge reason it tanked is that they got rid of Henry Cavill and they got rid of Zack Snyder.
That's true.
Is just an absolute genius, the movies that he makes. And Henry Cavill is the best Superman of all time.
Yeah.
There were a few things that made me very upset as an adult male. It was one, not doing well or not winning my congressional election. And after that, it was them pulling Henry Cavill as Superman. So, and then
And
fact
The
that those are
Witcher. Let's
even
not
for-
forget The Witcher.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing with Henry Cavill. He cared about the source content. He wasn't just going to do a job. I think it's Liam Hemsworth is the one taking over because Henry Cavill got fired from The Witcher because he cared so much about the lore, the content, and he really dove into it. A lot of the actresses that go into it, they want to know what the character is about. So they look at the backstory. It's not just a job for them. They're like, okay, how can I honor the source material and make it better? Because it's the end user that wants to see that stuff. And when you're playing a Superman, a Captain America, whatever that is, you're looking for those values. You're not just looking for a random actor number 5 that's on their way up to just fill their portfolio with an MCU, with a DC, with Harry Potter, whatever it is. It's like, no, we want to see the character doing what they do best. But yeah, we go and talk about culture stuff forever. But yeah, John, what do you
got a
think
good
of,
collection
as
of
far
nerds
as like
here.
related to administration and just emphasizing these things, and especially related to the Gen Z, is they're going to be the big voting block.
Yeah, well, we just have to absolutely tap into whatever is good, try to baptize it. We have, as a Catholic, we have the saying that grace builds on nature. Whatever is good, there's some things that you just can't redeem, right? There's some things that are just so atrocious, so maybe filled with such nudity or bad things within the programming. But if there's a relatable character, if there's a relatable sitcom, story, music, etc., trying to use that to try to sway the audience to reach out to them. But within our filming, we have to try to teach different lessons. And I think that there's kind of this arc right now where the hero is the person who doesn't really know if they have it, but if they just try their best, they'll be okay. That doesn't actually work in life. You can't just try your best and be okay. You have to really strive for excellence, strive for virtue to, be the best person you can. And even if you do, you might not quite make it because we all have different gifts, different capabilities. So we have to kind of just teach those different moral underpinnings within different movies and entertainment industry to try to convince people of the truth, because we have the truth. That's what we have that the left doesn't have. It's related to the natural law. It's related to the scriptures and what God teaches, that a man's a man, a woman's a woman, marriage between a man and a woman for the sake of children. So if we kind of relate to that, try to use it in our media and work for those kind of alternate media sources, if we refuse to go to movies that are just straightly offensive to us, we're going to go a long way.
Yeah, and I think to your point, right? And I think the larger kind of thing that made me happy to see this, it's that on the right, we are able to be culturally relevant. And that means that we can actually pull the culture closer to us and encourage people to create. And as long as like we aren't so afraid to, fall into this very like stuffy, like, oh, well, this is what it means when we're involved in politics, I think that's genuinely a good thing. But I do think it's important that we have to grab that frame morally and make sure that it's, in a good place, but you can't force it. It's like you have to participate, you have to be involved in it, and then you actually can create culture. And that's, to me, what the left has been so good at, and the right has absolutely sucked. So I just think that this larger analysis of we're actually being culturally relevant, that GameStop is going back and forth and sharing AI generated content, showing President Trump and fat JD Vance as Cortana in the back is amazing. And so I just, in general, I just think it's amazing to see this. And, you know, time flies so quickly, but I want to throw it over to David for our final topic and bring us to our close of episode 1, man. You know, final topic on the board.
Well, we're going to get into our guests too after that in the second
Yeah.
hour. But yeah, for the next topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look forward to it.
Well, I appreciate that, AK. And you know what's crazy is this last topic kind of wraps around into what I was going to talk to us all about and kind of get everybody's feedback and thought process on where we are as a country and culturally. Christianity is back, essentially, right? In the last few weeks following the obviously last month's tragedy, there's been an increase 15% in mass attendance across different Catholic universities have reported this. Within the last 2-3 days, YouTube dropped the performance video from the Dove Awards. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, I would conservative Lutheran upbringing, Wells Lutheran. We watch the Dove Awards every year. Brandon Lake and Jelly Roll performed their Hard Fought Hallelujah song. And it's that, so that version of it from the Dove Awards has only been up for about 3 days. And according to Google, it has 11 million views between YouTube, TBN, and Instagram Reels in just 3 days. So I think, in addition to that, Bible sales for the month of September went up 2.4 million copies sold. And you can kind of see that, and kind of like what we're talking about with the shift in pop culture, the shift in value systems, right? We're returning to things that are true. That's part of being a conservative is the idea that what was true 1,000 years ago is still true today. There are certain things that just don't change with time. And there's the article from Fox News is the 2.4 million Bibles sold in September following the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I just wanted to kind of go around the horn and get, has anybody else noticed? I don't know about you guys, but when I go to church now, like I have to go way earlier than I used to, or I'm not getting parking. I'm going on a hike to get to Sunday morning.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing
I've started going a lot more. I make sure I go there and, like you said, get there ahead of time. I bring my son. Like it's just more of a thing, and I'm getting more involved with volunteering as well. And actually, it was really, I'd say it was a roller coaster after what happened to Charlie Kirk and everything, because it was sad, and then you got that backlash of people, justifying it, which made me want to puke and do all that. But then at the same time, the presence of church kind of went up, which was amazing. And I'm seeing that on Facebook where people I had no idea started talking about religion and church and things like that, and Charlie Kirk and all that. So I'm like, okay, that's great. And then I saw the oddballs that were saying the wrong stuff, and it took me a little bit, but I got rid of them. I'm like, nope. It takes a lot for me to like get rid of people I've known for 20 plus years. But it's like, nope, that's a hill I'm willing to die on. So I'm like, I just don't need that in my feed, especially now everything gets shown right to you and you see the worst of stuff. There are two things. There's that, and then there's any cruelty to animals, which Hassan Piker has been involved with that stuff. But anyways, yeah, so it's like, nope, I just don't need that in my world, in my mind, and I'd rather have positive things. But I'm all for this kind of uptick.
I started seeing an uptick and kind of a downtick in church attendance starting back during COVID, because if you remember during COVID, depending on what state you lived in, and also I'm Catholic, I'm a convert to Catholicism, spent 4 years in seminary, was studying to be a priest. So like pretty involved, but you saw certain bishops, certain dioceses, certain churches shutting down, maybe being restrictive right away. But you also saw some of them who truly believe and know that more than the physical life, the spiritual life is the most important than staying around. So what you noticed is that more traditional, more orthodox, conservative churches ended up flourishing. When other churches started shutting down, people would start flocking to them because they were the only ones that were staying open. This happened with different more traditional Latin masses and things of that nature. I know it was a similar situation with conservative Protestant churches. My dad, he went to John MacArthur's church out in California, and that one stayed open, Grace Church out in LA. And this is also happening, yeah, with Charlie Kirk. So I think within the conservative movement, we're seeing more of the marriage or that union that should be there, where our Christianity, we have our values and worldview comes from Christ. It comes from, Israel, then the church established, then Jesus Christ passing it on. And that whole framework that we have in our political framework is just from that. We should embrace it because that's the best way to lead to natural flourishing. And with the death of Charlie Kirk, I've been to a couple of events, spoken at one where people are there, they are mourning, and they're realizing that message of Charlie Kirk. In that sense, he has been a martyr, where the blood of the martyrs is the seedbed for the church. That's how it flourishes and how people come to the faith, seeing someone being willing to die for that thing, just as our apostles did. So very happy about it. I hope that out of politicians, it's not just something they're just opening their mouths or kind of saying that they believe without actually, because it's the popular thing. So hopefully there's just a genuine conversion on their part and on the part of the base.
Yeah, go ahead, Lexus.
Yeah, going off of exactly what you just said is I really hope that people aren't converting just because it's the popular thing and that this is now what everybody's doing. Everybody's buying Bibles, everyone's going to church. And I hope that they're finding genuinely like good Bible believing churches. Because I mean, I've been to a big number of them where people are just going for the music, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I love Christian music, listen to it as I'm working out, all day, but it can be a problem if people aren't actually like having that religious connection, because I know I've heard a lot right now is people are saying it's not a religion, it's a relationship, but it is a religion. It does have traditions, it does have things that are very important, it has doctrine that's very important that people need to understand when they're part of churches. And so yeah, I really hope that this uptick in Christianity, which is really good, is going that way for the right reason, and it's not just because it's what's cool and what's popular. I mean, that's what we saw during like the Roman Empire, when was it Constantine that was like, you have to be a
Yeah, it was
Christian, and then
Constantine.
and then everybody became a Christian, but they weren't really Christian. What I'm saying? Like, I just don't want to repeat history like that.
Well, I think we can get into the history of whether that was good or bad, because I think there were a lot of
Right.
beneficial things that came, but then from that you had the monasteries and the desert fathers kind of going after it. But I see what you're saying, where there was some laxity that happened when everybody converted, which is bad, but generally having some relationship with Jesus Christ is better than none. But
Oh, agreed, totally.
sorry, I'm just a history nerd on that thing, so I had to chime in.
Yeah,
I love that. And I would say that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, AK.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, all of you have brought up some very good points. I'm such a data guy, and so Rasmussen reports, shout out to Mark Mitchell. I love the polling and the candid conversations he has about what he finds. He has this really interesting video in which he took all this polling data to really try and figure out, like, what is up with Gen Z? How are they different than basically, millennials or potentially, boomers and Gen Xers? And one of the things that was a little bit, I guess, a gut punch to me is that some polling was done that asked, do you believe that Jesus Christ was a son of God, that he came and died for our sins? And something absurd, like 70% of respondents, and it was a huge sample size, responded yes. But then when kind of further in kind of the polling asked about their views on abortion, and only 19% said that they were against abortion basically for any reason. So there's this disconnect, to your point, Alexis,
Yeah.
that, yeah, it's good when people are like, yeah, man, I'm going to church, I got a Bible. And I think that in general, if your choices are to not do that or to do that, we definitely want people doing it. But I think that we need to continue to challenge people, like you said, to be able to find a church. Don't just like sit at home and listen to praise and worship music. Find a community that is biblically sound. And I think that is very important. So we can't like take our foot off the gas and just cheer and say, hey, a bunch of people are coming to Christ, or a bunch of people start showing up to my church, or are saying that they profess this. Like, that's good. But then we, as especially myself, I've had kind of like a 20-year hiatus from the church, where I knew what I knew, but I was like, I don't really need to belong to a church community. I'm going to kind of just like go through life. But then my sister died from an accidental drug overdose in February. And that was about 2 years after my mom had died from a sudden cardiac arrest. And it kind of really hit me, and I had so much anger. And I just one day I was just like on my Pandora, I flipped it on to like some like 90s Christian music, some DC talk. And I was like, man, I just started praying. I'm gonna, find a church, and turned out to be this amazing church that's in my community. And so I started going, and now me and my wife actually just took, along with her mother, basically member classes. So like to go through the theology and to understand what it's about. But I say all of that, that I think has been happening on a larger scale, especially with what we saw with Charlie Kirk being murdered in front of everyone, that there is this desire to go. But yeah, you're right, Alexis, and you're right as well, John. You need to find something that's foundational, that can really get you centered. And I think it's incumbent upon us, especially those of us that understand faith, to be able to really encourage people to do that, not to just like, oh, it's good enough that you picked up a Bible and you said that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Like that's a good starting place, but we have to encourage people to go deeper in their walk with Christ.
And if I may respond as well, yeah, it's kind of like the same side of two coins. Like you want people to, or the same side of one coin. You want people to have a relationship with Jesus, but you need them to understand like actually what that means. Because yes, Jesus' love saves us. It is amazing and perfect. But the only reason we need it is because we are horrible sinners and we deserve to die. Like that's the only reason. And people are not taking that other part, that hard part that it is to swallow, that abortion is wrong, that homosexuality is wrong, because they just want that love. But you have to have the law for the love to exist. And that's just the disconnect of where the relationship and the religion are being separated, which is the big problem. Because yeah, people are opening their Bibles, but they're not feeling that conviction. They're not feeling that I actually need forgiveness.
And it will take time. Everybody
Yes.
finds it in their own season, in their own time. Like you go through different stuff. When I was deployed in Iraq, it's like, wow, I'm in the thick of it, and I need something right now. And so I found myself connecting with the chaplain, going to service, and pulling up the Bible on guard duty, 12 hours a day, 5 or 7. Yeah, it was 7 days, 7 days straight, 12 hours a day, every single month. I was on the perimeter, and you cannot. You're actually. I'll take that back. You're not supposed to have any reading material, but after you're done with your shift, and I'm like, okay, I need something to connect to and wind down, because we couldn't have any electronic devices or reading material because you had to be looking outward. But at the same time, I'm like, this is rough. Like you're nothing but guarding an entire base, and we're getting rocketed and motor attacks and all kinds of stuff, and then all the things that are going on inside. And so it was wild. I'm like, I need to connect to something bigger than myself, going back to what I learned when I was a kid and relating to that, what's going on with my life right now. And that helped out so much. And I was able to connect it on another level, and then go back and talk with my buddies that were also believers. And I could be like, hey, let's talk about this so we can all kind of develop in our own kind of way.
I think that Alexis and AK, you guys kind of hit up the need that there is religion. It has to be religion. It's not just how you feel. And I think to kind of speak to that is the only way that you can love something is you have to know something. You have to know the person. And if you don't know dogma, who is Jesus Christ? What are the most fundamental beliefs about him? Well, one, we believe that God is a Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We believe that the Son proceeds from the Father. We believe that Jesus suffered, died, and was buried, rose again on the third day. If you don't know those foundational truths, then you don't actually know Jesus Christ. It was St. Jerome who said, ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ. That's how you're supposed to know him. And what religion is, by definition from like Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, is it is giving. You have justice, which is giving to the other what's due to them. Religion is giving to God what's due to him, which is adoration, praise, repentance, thanksgiving. So in the act of religion, we are offering to God what it is that we can give him, which is only his divine life in us, only the grace that we receive from him in a relationship with him, which as Catholics we believe is through baptism, through the Mass, Eucharist, and then the prayers we offer when we're in a state of grace. So for people who are wanting to become Christians, Catholic Protestant Christians, you really need to make sure that you understand the dogma, understand the doctrine. And it wasn't that long ago where this is still true, but what you believe has to deal with whether you go to heaven or not. It's that important, right belief, orthodoxy teaching. So having that kind of orthodoxy having that proper relationship with Jesus Christ, which is a beautiful relationship. And the rules are, that's just how you manage a relationship. Like there's rules between Drew and I. If I'm a total dick to Drew at some point in time, that's going to hurt the relationship, right? It's like an unwritten rule that I have to be respectful, kind, help him. Just like with your spouse, if you punch your spouse in the face, it's not going to go very well. Well, there's different relationship that you have with God, your creator. And we see those as commandments, and we might see them as just rules, but every no to something is a yes to something greater. The no, thou shalt not kill, is a yes, life has meaning and significance. Thou shalt not commit adultery, that's a yes. The marriage between a man and his woman is very important. And don't honor other gods is to love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. So that's about that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, since we haven't necessarily had a full-on debate on anything yet, I would have just a couple of things that I was thinking about as you guys were saying that, all of that, because it's absolutely 100% true that, we need to have proper Christian education as people are coming into the faith. And that was actually one of the other points that I was going to make, is that Texas A&M's campus ministry had cited that about 400 students last month signed up for attending the Order of Christian Initiation within their facility. But I would also caution that, one of within the story of the crucifixion, right, we have the thief on the cross who comes to acknowledge, Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, perishes on the cross, but still has that eternal promise that and he didn't take a confirmation class, he didn't take a first communion, and that's not to say that those things aren't important. That's as I was raised Lutheran, all of that stuff very much important. I went through my own confirmation and all of that, but one of the things I will say is you can go to church for the wrong reason and still find truth, right? So there could even be, in this current cultural wave, people that are going because it's popular, because they want clicks on YouTube or TikTok or their Instagram reels, and God will encounter you in your ignorance. You see that with the Apostle Paul, right? When you're doing the thing that everybody else is doing, God could still encounter you there and bring you to the truth. What's fascinating, Drew, is you and I have almost the polar opposite in story. I went to the military, a good Christian Lutheran boy, and then I came home a little bit of a rebel and a rogue, and had to find my way back to the faith. For a couple of years there, I was wandering in some darkness of my own making, and I would say that I wandered into several churches, mostly with my family. They refused to kind of let me sit in my own mess. And I was there for the wrong reason. And I still, just being there in the presence of the house of God, you leave room for him to encounter you and bring you into ultimately into the truth. And then, the more you open that book, even if you're just reading passages for clicks on Instagram, you're going to have a moment, because the Spirit knows the truth, and eventually that Spirit's going to cry out for more truth, and you're going to be diving into something real. But yeah, I would absolutely agree that dogma and education is important, but there's also, like I said, I believe that the Spirit can meet us in our ignorance and still bring us to greater truth. So I think there's
Excellent.
still some positive.
That truth is called dogma, though. The truth is called dogma.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I was gonna bring up that as well. I was gonna say, you still have to understand why you need to be saved, but I would also agree that baptism, communion, confirmation, all of those things. Well, aside from baptism, because baptism does give salvation, as far as the Lutheran and Catholics believe, but communion and confirmation, those are things that strengthen faith. So I would agree with you on that point for sure.
I'll just say that there's differences in understanding, but I know we're not having the debate here, but that's okay.
We can have a little back and forth. That's what we're here for.
Well, no, that's a good way to end it right there as far as the topic goes. And then, this is a really good discussion on all three topics, and especially this last one, because we all have different views and different ways of life and regions and all these things where we come from, but we're all on the same podcast here. And if we got any listeners or viewers out there, I'm sure you got your stuff. Feel free to put it in the comments. But I want to get to know more about our guest tonight. So first we got John Frankman. We heard a little bit from you throughout the last hour, but tell us more about you. Just kind of go on of where you've been and what you've been up to and where you're going from here.
Yeah, I was born in LA, but grew up in the DC metro area. Parents split up when I was younger, so I ended up moving around the country. And then after high school, went to the West Point Prep for a year, then decided to go to college. So did Wheaton College, ROTC, and converted in high school to Catholicism. After that, while in college, thought God might be calling me to the priesthood, so went to seminary for 4 years. It's a 6-year program if you don't have a degree fully, or if it's a 6-year program if you already have a college degree. So didn't get ordained, but then went in the infantry, then special forces. And then Drew and I, we connected because I got out of the military for refusing the COVID shot mandate. After getting out of the military, wrote an op-ed that got some traction, ended up going on different interviews and going up to the Hill trying to advocate for service members. And it was at AmFest that Drew and I connected. And just that's been a very interesting journey for me. I was able to attend the State of the Union as Matt Gaetz' guest. Then October of last year at a Veterans Town Hall, was able to meet President Trump and ask him a question on stage about what he'll do to help repair the military and hold leaders accountable. And then had a short, brief time when I ran for Congress.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that. Yeah, I met John over 2 years ago now, I think at the first AmFest that we went to, and just kind of ran into each other after, I think, talking online and Twitter Spaces or whatever it kind of came from originally. But yeah, John and I's stories are kind of overlapping as far as the COVID stuff and the shot and stuff like that. I know we can talk a little bit more about that on YouTube now. Thanks, whoever's running YouTube at this point. I know it was Susan Wojcicki. I think she passed away a little bit ago, but she had a bunch of restrictions. But anyway, yeah, John and I connected. He went down the path of refusing it and then having ramifications come off, like he said. I ended up getting it and then had some negative impacts. And that's a long story, and we can dive more into that later. But it took me reaching out and to people I don't even know. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, turned into X, that was the only space that we could talk about that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start listening. And then I started volunteering to talk and speak and do all this, and that led to events. And finally, that's where I'm now. I found my voice both online and do speaking engagements. And John and I had an amazing opportunity last year at America Fest where we got to be part of this veteran media group and to be on Media Row. And so that we were interviewing anybody who could find. And I was given this list of all these politicians, celebrities, all these people that were willing to have interviews. And I emailed every single one of them, personal email, content saying, here's my story. I'd love to talk to you. And then and it ended up falling on me and John and a few other guys to make this 4-day thing happen on Media Row. But John stepped up. He was interviewing these top people, and we just had a blast, and it was a lot of work, at least for me. I think John, I don't know, you seem like you pulled it off really well, but who did you talk to? Do you remember?
I remember Cliff Maloney and a few others, but yeah, it was a good time. It was totally a blur because we weren't just interviewing people there, just trying to network throughout whenever wasn't at the booth. But it was definitely a good time. And I have to say, I'm extremely impressed with where you've come along. The first year I met you at AmFest was a lot closer to your medical health incident with Guillain-Barré syndrome. And you were not walking. You were in a wheelchair, just pushing, I don't want to say electric chair because you weren't getting killed, but whatever you call it.
It was a power scooter. And
power scooter, okay.
I did not want to, even doctors told me, you're not going to walk again. You're going to stay in a bed. Just take it easy. You've lived this whole life, and now just, take all these medications. And I don't want to go way into my story, but no, I was on 30 different medications a day and different ones. So part of them were double, triple that day. And it's like, no, I don't want to live this way. But I still wanted to get out there. So it's like, they're like, well, you got to go out in the safest way possible. So it was in the power wheelchair, but I'm like, it's not going to stop me. Cause I think it was Tim Pool that said, we're going to have a show out there, come out to America Fest. Charlie Kirk was on Tim Pool around that time. Jack Posobiec be like, yep, this is going to be a huge thing. And I'm like, all right, I'm going. This is a sign. I'm going to make this happen no matter what I look like. I've traveled the nation before. I've traveled the world. I can do this. And I'm going to figure out a way. I plan missions with the Army. I'm like, I can plan my own thing to get to Arizona and back. And even though it didn't look pretty and it was tough, that first year I made it happen and got to shake John's hand. And then, like you said, the next year I'm helping run this media booth and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So
great times. Yeah.
no, it was good too. And AK, you were there last year. Met you there too, right?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I mean, my path to being involved with like Turning Point Action, I have been involved in like Republican Party politics since 2006, and I started creating content basically. Like I got really upset from the George Floyd riots, and I was like, I'm gonna start making some videos. So I'd like sit in my garage, and I'd just be like power smoking, and I'd record like 20-minute rants and stuff, and then just kind of started, kind of honing how I want to do stuff. Had a couple of podcasts that I joined here locally. And then a buddy of mine's like, dude, you should run to be the national committee man. And I was like, yeah, why not? And I crushed it, won first ballot, unseated a guy that is actually now the state party chair. So kind of a little bit awkward because all three of us are in the RNC, myself, the chair, and then the committee woman. But no, I was reached out to by Turning Point Action, and they, I feel blessed because they graciously extended this opportunity for me to come to America Fest and to come to Student Action Summit, and to also, be involved at inauguration. Like I got to go to the Turning Point USA inaugural ball, which was super dope. Earlier, you had mentioned, John, that Cliff Maloney, and he's a super, super nice dude, man. Only thing that sucks is that we're both in the NFC. He's an Eagles fan, and I'm a Vikings fan. So,
You wore the hat during the interview.
bro, like
Yeah.
he's a hardcore Eagles fan, dude. It's hilarious. But yeah, no, it's been amazing to like see how Turning Point has been able to connect really, all of us in some way, shape, or form. I mean, even you, David, like us doing that Lakeville vigil, which I got invited to, kind of like last minute, but you emceeing that thing, again, really connected all of us together, and it actually brought Drew and me back into connection because like we had breakfast like I don't know 8 months ago or something, and just life happens. But yeah, like that's basically like through this terrible tragedy of Charlie Kirk's assassination, God has a plan, man, and Turning Point has been very central to that. To the fact, tomorrow I'm going to be speaking at Turning Point UMD chapter because they had their guest drop out last minute, and I'm going to be talking about mass deportations now and why it's a good thing. And so it's been really fantastic what Turning Point has been, this like cornerstone figure, organization for all of us, and I think you're going to see that continue to grow and happen all across the country.
And for those of us who don't live in Minnesota, is that Duluth, University of Minnesota Duluth?
Oh, sorry, yeah, I said UMD, didn't I?
We're just
Yeah.
like,
University of
what?
Minnesota Duluth.
I'm down here in
Yeah.
Florida, down in Florida, Bama.
Florida,
we don't know
Bama.
about no Duluth. Yeah. I think, is that where Father Mike Schmitz is? I know he's.
That explains the permanent smile on your face. You haven't been outside shivering.
It got cold. It was in the 60s today.
Oh gosh.
So
Yeah, I'm one of them evangelicals. I belong to an Assemblies of God, so I'm not sure about Father Schmitz.
Okay.
I know that we have a Father Dolan or Bishop Cardinal Dolan, something like that.
Colonel Dolan
Yeah.
is out in. He's in New York.
Maybe it's not him. I can't remember. Robert something. It's gonna bug me.
No, you have Bishop Robert Barron. Is he in Minnesota
Yes.
too? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in Minnesota.
Okay,
He's
I forgot where he
dope.
got moved.
He's dope, man. I watch his stuff and I'm like, this dude, he's cool.
Yeah, Father Mike, he's a college chaplain, and he had the largest, most viewed Bible podcast ever is actually by Father Mike Schmitz, a Catholic priest, and he goes through it Bible in a year. So just was curious about that. But no, Cliff's funny. Eagles hat. He's all in. He's a good dude. He reached out to me when I was running, so I was able to chat with him, and then yeah, just great advice. Good person. Yeah.
So, John, I want to get to know you a little bit more because you and I have actually, this is our first interaction together. So, if I'm going back to your story correctly, you were going through the education to become a priest, and then you joined the military. So you decided, I don't want to give communion. I want to jump out of airplanes and kick in muddy doors on the other side of the world. Tell me where that change in career happened for you and what maybe called you in that direction away from ministry.
Sure. Well, I converted to Catholicism when I was 15, and that was going to a Catholic school, liking everything I was learning, going to the Mass, having that kind of spiritual atmosphere that I felt drawn to. And as I was converting, thought that perhaps I was being called to the priesthood. Now, I always wanted to go in the military. My dad, he was a police officer. My stepdad was in the military, wanted to do that kind of service, use the gifts God gave me for the greater good. So went through ROTC, the Reserve Officer Training Corps, while in college, commissioned in the Army. And what the Army has is they have educational delays. If you're going to be a chaplain, a lawyer, a doctor, you can delay your active duty commitment and go to that schooling. So I went to seminary, spent 4 years there. And seminary is a place to discern what God's call is for your life. Now, you don't go there if you 100% know you're not going to be a priest. But if you have that kind of inkling, it's a place to step aside, spend some time with the Lord. And just like in a dating relationship, you get to know your future spouse. Within the seminary, you get to know your potential future bride, the church. And I was just going into my last year, wasn't exactly sure. So did some fasting, some prayer, through a lot of very providential meetings, ended up discerning that that was not what God was calling me to do. And then in a very real way, God helped me know that was the right choice by on Easter Monday, the first day, I found out I got active duty infantry. And that's something that I had wanted while I was in college. So I thought, okay, God, you love me, but you want to challenge me. So I went from, so as ROTC, having been a commissioned officer, I would have served as a chaplain. So there wasn't any kind of delay. It was just letting the military know, hey, not going to be a chaplain, need to pay my 4 years active for reserve some other way. So went into the infantry and then tried out for special forces.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the district that you ran in, John, after that first taste of running, are you re-strategizing a different congressional district? Are you like, maybe I'll run for this? I'm always curious, what that's like to put your all into it, because you don't seem like a guy that goes, you don't go half speed, man. You go full speed. So I'm just kind of curious, what do you see for your political future? Are you going to stay in Florida? Are you going to, try out some different places? But yeah, I'm just genuinely curious where you're at when it comes to public service.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I decided to run is because I felt that that was what God was calling me to do. And when I left the military, the first thing I did is I went on a 8-day silent retreat. My op-ed got published later, and that ended up leading to a lot of interviews, going up to Congress, and kind of that desire in my heart to use the gifts God gave me for that greater good, to really make that change in the national level where I just don't see Congress working for us. So I kind of had it in my mind within half a year after getting out of the Army, that this is something I'd consider pursuing. Matt Gaetz, he was my congressman, so I ran in his special election. Really appreciate his friendship, everything he's done for me. So what am I doing right now? I'm just trying to pursue holiness, try to seek what God's will is. I've had some dead ends on different job opportunities, so I'm actually going on another 8-day silent retreat starting on Thursday, hoping to get some light. But I'm not exactly sure if, when, whatever I'll run. I do think that I'm being called into politics in some way. If I can work in some area that's politically affiliated, politically adjacent, whether it's the Trump administration or for a think tank like Heritage or whatever, it's something I'm definitely open to. And I will certainly maintain some roots out here. I love this area. I love this district. I mean, it's the most veteran densely populated district in the country. We got 4 military bases. La Familia, 7th Special Forces Group is here. So, just pray for me. And God knows I don't yet, but that's okay.
I'm really curious of what state were you in when towards the end of your military career, when you were removed because of the vaccination thing? I know in my hometown we had a lot of veterans pushing back on that, and that was very present in our community. So I'm just curious what that looked like for you and where you were at.
Yeah, I was stationed at 7th Special Forces Group, which is Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. So it's actually Central Standard Time. It's straight south of Alabama. Matt Gaetz was the congressman. I noticed immediately a difference in how COVID was handled. I moved from North Carolina in June of 2020 to Florida. North Carolina was more locked up, more restrictions on churches. Florida, a lot more open. And we have had a number of different warriors who were involved in fighting against the vax mandate in this area. A lot of people on Hurlbut Air Force Base, which is home of Air Force Special Operations, were pushing back, met with other individuals. So it was a kind of nice group. And I think of the congressmen that did the most to help fight the mandate, Matt Gaetz did so much. So it was felt very well represented with that respect. So it was kind of very providential that I got stationed here. One, I love Spanish. Well, you have to learn a language in order to be a Green Beret. And for us in 7th Special Forces Group, we learned Spanish. So that was a great positive aspect. Being in such a solidly conservative area, Christian area, very military was a great thing. So there were no restrictions here, more or less, in the state itself. It was just odd when you go on base and they say you have to wear a mask, and it's like, no, we don't do it when we walk 50 meters off base. So, and with SF, things are a lot more lax. There were some folks who like definitely faked the funk, got vax cards or whatever, or their medics squirt the vaccine in the trash can or something like that. But you know, I obviously did not do that.
Allegedly, YouTube. Allegedly. We can neither confirm nor deny.
I wasn't there, so it's just hearsay.
Excellent. I mean, where else what are you doing the rest of the year? I know you said you're doing that retreat and stuff like that, but where do you see the rest of the calendar year kind of going for you, John?
I mean, I just kind of the retreat and then pray about it. Really have some stuff in the works in the back burner as far as job opportunities. And maybe when the government reopens, we'll have a better idea about some of those possibilities. So just going to continue to put out feelers, and rather than worrying about it and stressing about it, just kind of give it to God the next 8 days and just see what kind of blessings he comes back with.
Yeah, that's good perspective. I don't know if you've struggled with that since getting out of the military. That I have, for sure, of just, what do? I used to be on this career progression, and I knew what was coming next with rank, with locations or deployments or whatever the deal was, or drill dates or whatever the thing was. And now it's completely up to me, which is good and bad, because I couldn't wait to, have that freedom. But with that freedom comes responsibility and duty, and be able to decision-making process. So, I have my tough days and I have my better days where I'm like, okay. And that's where I found myself, was like, okay, on my good days, I'm gonna get my best out of it. And I'm gonna plan, I'm gonna apply for different things, speaking engagements, skill building. And then on the times where I need to just kind of come back and relax and rest, like you were saying with those times of reflection, I've had to do that. But it's been tough kind of having an off button or a take it easy kind of thing, because it's never really been my mentality. Have you found that as well, going through those kind of feelings?
Yeah, absolutely. I constantly have to keep myself busy, and whether it's going to something like AmFest or CPAC, or I mean, the last 4 or 5 days have been to a number of different Florida state, local, county party things. I will be speaking at Okaloosa County later this month or next month. So that's the thing I'm doing too. But yeah, it can definitely be difficult. I think one of the more difficult times for me was after getting out of the election. That definitely, when Trump jumped in as quickly as he did, endorsed the other candidate, that was definitely a difficult time of readjusting, figuring out, okay, what's next? How do we recalibrate? Something I'd been planning for and very excited about. But you go through those times, you trust in God, and you always end up doing well. So for anyone who's watching, just give yourself to God, pray to Him. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. He's like a tree planted by the water, sends out its roots to the stream, and its leaves remain green. That's I think Jeremiah 17:7-8. Just read that verse; it'll give you a lot of consolation.
Awesome. Well, yeah, John, great to get to know you more and introduce you to the rest of the people on the panel. And yeah, let's jump over to Alexis. Tell us kind of similar thing. I know your career is a little bit shorter, but you are on your way, it sounds like, for sure. So give us your backstory, and let's go from there.
Yeah. So I'm raised in a Wells Lutheran conservative household, pretty great upbringing that way. Grew up in Juneau, Alaska, so very isolated, relatively remote as far as the country goes. As far as Alaska goes, we're doing pretty good, but as far as the country goes, it's very remote. So that was definitely unique. Grew up whale watching, fishing, hunting, all the Alaska things. I always thought that I wanted to go into the military. I served 4 years in the Civil Air Patrol. I have a lot of hours in flight training. I went to a glider academy, a minor cadet version of boot camp, and then also officer training school for the Civil Air Patrol. And wanted to do it so bad. Did my first semester of college, I was in the ROTC, but then I got disqualified at MEPS, and I kind of took that as God telling me I have other plans for you and I have other ways for you to serve this country. And kind of just like since like middle school, I started getting into politics and watched a lot of Charlie Kirk as he was getting up there, Candace Owens, Brett Cooper, all the big names. And it's always kind of been on the back burner of my mind that, working for Daily Wire or doing a podcast like this or speaking in this way, getting involved with Turning Point, all of those things would be kind of a dream job for me, but it was always so out of reach. But then once I moved out here, started going to college, I started realizing there's more possibilities. And then I've always been a public speaker. Like I did speech and debate a lot growing up and even coached it at some points. And so it's been really cool to see how my public speaking can serve God in other ways and also serve our country. So right now I am getting a TikTok platform set up. I'm hoping to get a podcast going here shortly. My fiance is going to be my editor, so that's kind of a fun little tag team thing. That's been like my most controversial but also busy thing right now is planning a wedding at 18 is very controversial on the internet. But it's been a huge blessing in my life. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, even though I'm pretty young, I've tried so many careers out. I thought I was going to be a lawyer at one point too, so I worked at a law firm and like I don't know, I've just done everything that I thought I wanted to do. I just dove headfirst into it and just kind
That's
of
really the way to
let
do it, especially when you're
yeah.
young. I mean, that's what I did in different ways with the military and stuff. But no,
Yes.
you're on the right path of just trying things. I never understood the people that would just kind of just do one thing, wouldn't want to jump, into this or that, because it just was a different mindset for me. I'm like, hey, let's give even my buddies from high school. I'm like, hey, let's go try to join the military and just see what happens. And they were like, I am not going with you. I'm not. They're like, I support you, and some of them didn't. Or they're like, what are you doing, crazy? And I'm like, this is what I'm doing, and this is my personality. But that's
Right.
incredible. Yeah, you're on your way, trying different things. I'm sure you're gonna stumble, fail, and temporary defeat rather than failure. And yeah, and you never know. Like you're never going to be on one thing for the rest of your life. Just the way technology changes and different seasons in life. But yeah, that's incredible. So
You know,
so
one
what
of
are you
the
doing right now? Are you in school or just
Yes,
doing the
I'm
working thing?
I am graduating next year with my communication degree, and I have a minor in English. So very much social media minded. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm also working as a social media manager for a tour company in Alaska. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, and then also the side stuff as well. Hoping maybe someday I can monetize that and just dive right into it and just keep doing this kind of thing. But yeah.
now
That is the cool thing about
when
this country is you can try literally anything, and you can,
Yeah.
you know, for all the complaining that the other side of the aisle likes to do, there's as the legal immigrant on the panel, this is the only country where you can try just about anything and try to fit as many lifetimes into one as you want.
Yeah, and like I moved across the country at 17. I had to get my parents' signature for everything. Like it was, and they're in Alaska. So, it's like just an extra little hurdle, that not very big, but just like an extra one. And then my friends around me are like, why are you doing that? It's so hard. And it's like, it's really not. Like, just do it. You just got to do it,
one of the things that I was probably most fascinated by, every once in a while, I've ran into people in my life that are impressive for the age that they are, with the level of clarity they have and drive and purpose. And when you spoke at the Lakeville Vigil, I was like, no way. I'm like, how old is this girl? Like, holy cow! Like you have a lot of wisdom, and part of this probably God's gifted you with discernment. It sounds like, you seem like you understand a lot of things, and I imagine that your faith has actually helped kind of shape that and give you a lot of guidance. I'm really curious, like for you, I met your fiance as well. what do you see yourself doing in regards to like Turning Point? Because like you're going to graduate in a year. Is it something that you've tried to get connected with, or are you connected with doing some stuff with Turning Point? Because I think that you're an inspirational figure, especially for your age, because, you know, it's just, you don't come across it very often.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I can't speak for anybody here, but I didn't have that kind of head on my shoulders.
Yeah, so my biggest goal is to have the chapter well and going by the time I graduate. Right now we just got approved through our student senate. And so that's why I'm not like saying what my college is right now. I'm trying to like keeping everything good, you know. We still got to get through the cabinet. Once that goes through, either yay or nay, we'll throw it out there. But you know, for now we're gonna play things cool. So that was like the first big hurdle. And they're letting me actually talk to the cabinet members, which doesn't happen when you're trying to get a club passed at colleges. They don't let you talk to them. But they're letting me discuss what this means. So I'm really hopeful about that. They're actually getting the president, because I go to it's a religious college. So they're getting like the president of the denomination. I'm trying not to use too many like, you know, things that could pinpoint the college, but
Don't give too many clues away.
yes, try not to give too many clues, but they're getting higher ups involved as well, which means that they're really putting a lot of effort into this and making sure it's the right decision. So I'm really happy about that.
Super cool.
And then post grad, I have some connections with regional managers of Turning Point, and I've been talking to them about things that I could do getting involved with them.
Do we lose her?
Seeing, sorry, someone called me. But yeah, so I'm just gonna see what's gonna happen post grad.
Cool.
That's incredible. Yeah. Really good stuff. I mean, it's all about building connections, networking, just getting to know people. And yeah, you're well on your way. Just being on this show for one, not to mention all the other things that you mentioned. So willing to just jump in there. That's incredible.
Well, I think it's awesome that you are getting married at 18. I mean, not as long as you have a good head on your shoulders, obviously understanding that marriage is a covenant between you, your spouse, and God, that there are those proper rules, that it is a lifelong commitment that is faithful, that is fruitful. So more power on to you. And that's a great example. And that's something where I think a lot of millennials, for whatever reason, we just weren't taught it, or it was going with tech or whatever it is. So definitely good on you. I was going to ask a kind of different question, because you're doing social media, you're getting on different platforms. My background, I was a Special Forces Green Beret. We are worried about different intelligence collection that can be through human intelligence, through signal intelligence and things like that. And also just kind of how data is aggregated potentially by an adversary like China. Now, you mentioned that you are also going on to TikTok, or want to get that. Have you thought about kind of the pros and cons with regards to having a TikTok platform, given I think is it ByteDance and just kind of the Chinese properties and what they might be taking from you? Just curious as your position on that, and perhaps you can educate me, because maybe I could know more about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely something that I've considered when I was considering what platform I want to start on. For me, just because I'm starting out and I wanted to start out square one, I didn't want any friends or family to know about the account. I wanted to be very, you know, not have that fear of like, okay, what friends am I going to lose? So I wanted, it was more choosing the type of account based off of my needs versus the pros and cons. I didn't quite weigh them when I started out, because I knew that eventually my goal is to step away from TikTok eventually. Right now I'm trying to build that platform. I'm going to start cross posting onto Instagram, Facebook, different accounts like, or different platforms like that. Hopefully I can step away completely from TikTok. But I think that TikTok does have a lot of really good uses. Just the way that it's set up is really useful, and it gave me that kind of autonomy, or the, what is it, being incognito, I guess, for a little while, which is something I really, what?
Anonymity.
Yeah.
Yes, that I really needed to get started, because it is intimidating. I'm sure you guys all know, posting like the first couple of times, it's really intimidating, and especially about topics that are so, you know, controversial in the first point, that I really needed that to start with, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, you know, just to throw in my little 2 cents. So I started just putting content on all platforms. And back in 2023, going into 24, like TikTok just was super successful for me. So year I grew to 100,000 followers, and very few videos of mine ever got taken down because I try and be tactful no matter what the topic is. I don't go out there and like drop bombs and like I never like I never like censored myself. I hate when like people are like unalive. I'm like, dude, just say suicide. Like whatever. Point is that I found success there. But the thing that to your point, John, about security and Chinese spyware and all that good stuff, I always say like you have to be where the people are if you want to be influential. And I think that this was what was fascinating about the Trump administration is obviously you remember when Trump was against TikTok and he wanted it banned, and then he blew up on TikTok, and now the White House is posting funny. They're doing trend videos, right? Like where they're going through the fridge and all that different stuff. So it's like I think there's some potential upside because of the forced sale of certain portions, getting rid of the CCP interest. It'll be interesting to see what happens with TikTok. I know plenty of people that are critical still and are like TikTok's garbage and all that stuff. My personal position and what I would encourage you to do, Alexis, is kind of put everything everywhere. And ultimately, you're trying to have the biggest impact, and then you can move away. One thing I can tell you is that TikTok does not translate to other platforms very, very well. Sometimes it can, but like if I go on TikTok right now and I tell people to, go do something, my rate is like 100%. Like it's so small. It's crazy small. Like, but that's just, to me, everyone's gonna be a little bit different. That's just be my piece. And just for what it's worth, I got engaged at 19. I got married. I turned 20, and me and the wife celebrated 21 years in July. So I believe in you, Alexis.
Congratulations, AK.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. That's incredible. It seems like we're all doing different things. We all got similar stories, similar things that we've done as far as values and things like that. It's really cool the way people are coming together nowadays. Because I mean, I felt like I was stuck in COVID and post COVID for a couple of years and stuff like that. You feel like you're alone. You're like, is it just me out here on this island with whatever we're thinking or the job or whatever? When call it what you want to call it, the other side can just say whatever they want. They get no ramification. They get nothing like this. But you have to walk on eggshells. Are you seeing that, Alexis? Or have you seen that before in the last couple of years? And then is it different nowadays with your friend group, or are you able to be more kind of vocal, I guess, with close friends and further?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Saw it way more in the past than now. I guess just some history I was a freshman in high school when COVID was going on. So my first years of high school were completely blown up, like non-existent. And then in Alaska, where my city is very liberal and they have liberal budgeting as well. And so that led to them not being able to fund my high school. And so for what would have been my senior year, they decided that they're shutting down the high school. So the high school that I would have graduated with doesn't exist anymore. So truly, I only got 1 year of like normal high school. So I had that going for me, which, just like you said, so isolating. You feel like the world's against you. That's a very formative time, where you watch High School the Musical and all these fun, all those TV shows, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get that moment, and then you never really do. And then on top of that, like formative years, like you're trying to figure out what you believe in and you're trying to share these ideas, but then you're being told you're a racist or a misogynist or all these different things. And I mean, I was in a high school, the year that I had where I was in person, I had multiple people threaten to beat me up and saying that I was going to go to hell and that I should die. Basically what we're hearing when we say, like we shouldn't be upset, we should be mourning Charlie, or that Charlie was a good person, like essentially that. But yeah, to our faces, friends that I thought that I had. But I've seen it get a lot better over the years. I feel like, especially now that we're in the Trump administration, it's a little bit easier. It also just doesn't bother me as much anymore because especially when it's online, I know people are braver when it's behind a screen. But now I feel like it's still bad. It still shouldn't be happening, but it's it's becoming a little bit more okay to have disagreements and to have these conversations. And I think that's a big thing that Turning Point has done. So where we used to be, it's a lot better, but we still have a long way to go for sure.
Yeah, and plus it might be getting easier, but you're also developing as a person. You're developing your thick skin, but also your rebuttals, I guess, in a way. And the rebuttals kind of solidify your values, I guess. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I feel is like I find my voice. I think I said that earlier. Is like I know the words to tap into now when people say they're racist, misogynistic, whatever talking points that they probably just heard from somebody else. Be like, no, this is what I believe in, and this makes sense to me. I'm, if you want to tell me something different, I'll hear you out. I used to try to seek common ground with everybody, and then realize that they're just coming from or a lot of them were just coming from just a bad angle. But no, that's great. I feel like you're probably just developing more as a person, as a character, as a woman, and you're gonna go nowhere but up from here. So that's really awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really encouraging to see. And I will say, for what it's worth, I can only speak for myself. I'm sure AK's experienced similar things, but it doesn't matter what skin color you are. If you're espousing real Christian viewpoints and conservative viewpoints, you're going to get hit with the racial narrative. I mean, I've had that thrown at me. I've had people tell me I'm not truly Hispanic, and different things like that. So I mean, you're doing the right thing, and you're well on your way on the right path. And the longer you're in this game, the less and less that those things will matter to you.
So I got another question for you, Alexis.
Yeah.
We're a bit older than you. We're seeing how the Conservative Party is changing. It's obviously changed tremendously with Trump, or just to a great degree, right? From the neocon, and now just every generation has their concerns, the things they like, the things they don't. How do you see Gen Z Republicans changing from, or how do they differ from other Republicans? What are your guys' concerns, fears, hopes? What changes do you think they might do to the Republican Party, especially if you're trying to talk to politicians who are trying to take care of you or represent your needs?
Yeah, and I talked to, oh man, what is his name? He is running Scott Jensen.
Scott Jensen, running for governor here in Minnesota.
Yes, Scott Jensen. We actually had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him. There was about 6 of us Turning Point officers that got to speak with him. It was a great conversation. And what we kind of told him is our generation is so tired of the bans, of ban books, ban abortion, don't ban this, ban guns, all the different things. We are so tired of that. We want to, and I think we're really getting down to the small government mindset for my generation. I think is people want the government to stop telling us what we can and can't do. We want them to push back on all of these things that keep happening. We don't want people to be dependent on them for funding or for handouts, quite frankly. We want people to have, to be able to just function in society without people screaming from the rooftops of what we should be allowed to do and shouldn't be allowed to do. So I think ultimately what we're going to be bringing to the table is possibly a slightly more moderate viewpoint, but really just pushing for small government, pushing for less influence on our lives. Yeah, I feel like that's what we're really going to be bringing to the table at the end of the day.
Who are some of your favorite politicians, or the favorite politicians of kind of your generation, so we can kind of get an idea of, what direction do we think other politicians are going to flourish in that kind of perspective?
I feel like I've been right now, for some reason my TikTok is on the left side, so I've been doing a lot of talking with people who disagree with me and not a lot of talking with people that do agree with me, unfortunately. But one thing that I think a lot of people want is, at least in my conversations, is younger politicians, like JD Vance, for example, younger politicians to start making their way up, because I mean, when both of our president candidates can, collect Social Security, you're kind of like, it's a little bit difficult to choose from a younger perspective, because they're not going to be putting legislation in that is going to benefit me as much, where they might be angled towards like people who are retired. So I think I feel like at the end of the day, that's kind of what our biggest priority is. We want to see younger people making strides. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad with names right now. I apologize. The secretary, oh my goodness, what's her name?
Christy
Secretary
Nome,
of the
Tulsi
Press.
Gabbard.
What is her name?
Oh,
Oh, my goodness,
Yeah, she's like the youngest
Levitt.
person
I know
right
her
now.
last name is
Carolyn
Levitt.
Levitt.
Carolyn,
Yes,
jeez.
thank you.
You can't remember because you're young. We can't remember because we're old.
I feel I've been in a debate brain this whole week, so like my names are off the wall. Yeah, so younger people like that I think is what we more gravitate towards, which is kind of makes sense because we are young. But hopefully that answers your question. I think that's kind of the way we want to go. Is yeah.
Get someone young. You know, one of the things that, again, looking at data, your generation, by and large, and this is kind of like a huge ideological paradigm shift. Your generation tends to answer the question of like, do you think that capitalism is a good thing or a bad thing? Would you support, basically taxing the rich to help working class people? And it's like it's huge numbers. Like it's in the high 60 percentage of people that like actually accept more what we would classify classically as socialism. And so I think that President Trump kind of represents a new populist economic kind of messaging and policy positions. And so I'm curious from like your perspective, when you hear things like, taxing the rich is bad, is that something that you're like, yeah, I don't really care about that? I guess I mean from an ideological perspective, what you're seeing, like what's more important? Is it more important that the average American is able to afford to buy a house, able to afford, to be able to take care of their family? And if that is because you have to tax corporations more, or is that like a deal breaker for your generation where you're like, no, we shouldn't tax the rich. We should find other ways and people need to live within the means. I'm just genuinely curious from your perspective. I don't know,
Yeah.
you're just one person, but
Yeah.
what your perspective would be.
I mean, of conversations that I can have in my circles, of course, which is pretty limited. I would say we want less taxes in general, like taxing the rich, taxing the poor. Like, let's just dumb it, like just bring it down. Obviously, we want to be able to buy a house. Obviously, we want to be able to, live. But yeah, I think that people need to learn how to live within their means. I'm seeing a lot of people that are my age that are spending way too much money on things that they shouldn't be. So learning practical spending, learning financial literacy, because especially with COVID, we lost a lot of that. We didn't get to learn that in our education system. You have to pick it up on the side by yourself, which is a huge problem. And I think also something we really want, which I don't think is talked about enough in the media, is we want to get back to a society where people can have a single income household, because right now society is set up where both parents have to be working, both people have to be working in the household, or multiple people have to be working, and that's just not something, because I've talked to so many girls that are like, well, I want the option of being a stay-at-home mom, but I can't because we all have to work because we can't afford a house, or we can't afford daily living if we don't. And so I think that's kind of where we want to go. As far as taxing the rich, I think just less taxes in general. If it's either or, I'm not sure we care, you know?
Excellent. Well, any last questions for Alexis?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
going
go
to
for it.
follow up with a semi-funny question here,
Yeah.
just to end on a fun note. So one of the events that you and I were at was when Michael Knowles came, and AK was there as well. When Michael Knowles came to Minneapolis, and you got to have a moment that went pretty viral on TikTok. It looks like, the exchange ended with you inviting him to your wedding, or him saying he wanted an invitation. And I noticed that you had posted you mailing out your invitations. So
Yeah.
just for our curiosity, has Michael Knowles RSVP'd to your wedding?
He is not, unfortunately, but I did send him an invite, so we'll see what happens. There's still a couple months, so
Hey, the
We're
worst
all
thing
going to
you can
share this
do is
clip
you're
and
already at
tag him in
no.
it. And yep.
It can only go up from there.
do it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having us, guys. This has been great.
Yeah, that's incredible. No, good discussion all around. Now, being our first episode, now let's get to know our co-host a little bit more. David, jump into kind of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, my name's David Webster. I
Oh,
am.
you guys can stay on.
Oh, yeah, you guys are more than welcome to hang out.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
a legal
let's
immigrant.
say that real quick. Yeah, you guys stay on. We got another couple minutes, and we want to find out where people can find you later on. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we want to give you guys a chance to do your shout outs. Legal immigrant to this country. The Wells Lutheran Church and their doctrine and that upbringing is the reason I'm here in this country. My parents heard about mission from some missionaries that there were some kids on the other side of the world who need a home. They needed a home. Um, that kind of planted a really deep seed of gratitude inside of me for this country and everything that it offers. And after high school, I joined the military, and from there, I ended up getting injured, and so that kind of put an end to that career. And I found my way, kind of like with what Alexis was talking about earlier, just trying different things and finding my career path and my skill set and what I'm good at. And then right after the Trump presidency, I ended up the second win there. I ended up getting more involved in politics and meeting some pretty incredible people like AK and yourself, and just finding ways to be involved in local campaigns, local politics, and then things like this podcast.
cool. What does the rest of the year look like for you?
Oh man, well we're gonna grow this podcast. I've got some political campaigns that I can't officially say anything yet, but I'm excited to be a part of and to be contributing to. I'm going to be going around. It looks like at some point talking to some different Turning Point chapters just about the value of legal immigration and the value of assimilation in this country, and just helping to impress that upon the younger generation and why that's important, why we need that in this country, because obviously immigration without assimilation is invasion. And then that's how you lose a country when you don't have that. And I'd like to think I'm a pretty good poster child for what can happen to you as an immigrant if you choose to assimilate to the culture of the country in which you choose to call home. So that's going to be this coming year for me.
Incredible. That's awesome. Yeah, we got some good stuff coming. We're going to build this up and kind of see where it goes. AK, where have you been? What's going on with you these days?
Listen, man, I'm probably one of the world's busiest people that's really bad at monetizing my busyness. So just this last week, I emceed one fundraiser, and helped a local Republican unit raise, close to like $8,000. And the other one, I was the main speaker at a fundraiser, and helped them raise close to like $7,000. So I do that on a pretty regular basis. I'm also, with being Republican National Committee man for the state of Minnesota, I have to travel at least 3 times a year to our summer meeting, our winter meeting, and our spring training. Our next winter meeting is going to be coming up here in Santa Barbara, California, and that's where all of us stodgy Republicans get together, and we talk about how we are going to ensure that Republicans keep the House. And so I'm just constantly doing stuff like that. I also wear a hat where I am part of the Republican State Central Committee in Minnesota. And so we have a meeting coming up in December in Bemidji for that. And then on top of that, people ask me just to come and speak to their group. So I went to a campaign kickoff last night. Leslie Larson is running, and I think she'd make a great state legislator out in the Blaine area. So I do stuff like that all the time. Like I said, I'm going to be up in Duluth. I'm just constantly trying to help turn this state red. Like, ultimately, I think that when I make my content, that people become a little bit more curious about what they can do to be involved in politics. I try and, demystify that you can have such impact if we can just get enough of our friends and neighbors that have the right perspective. And I mean that both the right perspective, right of center, and the morally correct perspective. And I try and encourage people, especially people that are Christians. I know sometimes it's listen, God calls us to go out and we have to make disciples, right? We're out there and we are training people and all of that. I think you can walk and chew gum, though. I think that you can do all of that as you're called to. And I also think that you can be involved civically. And I think you can be involved in your electoral politics. And February, what is it? It's the first Tuesday in February in Minnesota. We have our caucus. And so you show up basically at, it's going to be usually a church or a school, and you can raise your hand and you can run to be in party leadership at the precinct level, which is the smallest level. And so that's kind of what I'm all about, is trying to get people to say, I want to get involved in politics. Obviously, I want you to get involved in Republican politics if you're a Republican. If you're not a Republican, please don't come. Get involved in other ways. but yeah, man, I mean, I just try and stay busy all the time. And then I work a full-time job. And, I'm a husband and I'm an uncle and I got to go to volleyball games. So yeah, man, I stay busy all the time. And I look so forward to this podcast. Make sure everyone that's watching that you are liking, that you are subscribing, and that you are sharing. I'm going to hopefully get a lot of my Facebook audience, as much of my TikTok audience that I can after the show is done, so we can continue to grow. But everyone that's watching, share with your friends, your family, your enemies, and make sure that we can grow this podcast if you like it. Also, comment what you hate about it, because I think it's important for us to always try and improve ourselves, So
Absolutely. No, that's incredible. No, like you said, you do all these things without being monetized in whatever way, but that's how people grow, and it'll come back around for you eventually in ways that you probably have no idea that would happen. And people are gonna be like, oh, you've always been a success. And be like, I work to get that's usually how it goes. John knows. Alexis, you're going to figure it out in the next 20 years. That's just kind of how this goes. But yeah, you pay your dues, and then people wonder how you got all this success. But yeah, me, this year, this 2025 has been pretty wild. Every summer I just get my butt kicked with this Guillain-Barré autoimmune neuromuscular illness, but I'm going after all these different treatments, seeking help when I need it, and it's been paying off. I can kind of project of what my days, my weeks, my months, my quarters, my seasons are going to look like, and they're not always pretty, but I can get my effort in when I need it, and then it pays off. It pays off dividends, like doing this podcast. So putting in the effort, and then it's going to come back around. But like I said before, I know when I need to rest, and I know when I need to just work my tail off and do whatever it takes, knowing that it's going to pay off in the long run. So yeah, this summer has been pretty rough with the heat, the humidity, but I've developed tactics. I've developed treatment plans, trying new things I learned at America Fest and other places that I've been traveling, and just having conversations with people and researching different methods, finding out how much they are, figuring out how I pay for that. And so, because it adds to my quality of life, I don't claim to be alcohol free. I probably will. I'm not saying I won't ever drink again, but it's been over 2 years now since I drank alcohol, and it's my health has been a lot better. I've been working on my nutrition, and things are going a lot better the more I take care of the things that I can control. And then my career, my second career, now that I'm retired, I don't feel retired or disabled, but that's my current state, but that doesn't have to be my end state. So that's what's going on with me. I got now is my busy season with the winter, with speaking engagements, event planning, conventions, all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And then as well as doing this podcast with these three with our producer.
Shout out to Andrew.
Yeah.
In the background.
Yeah, show Andrew some love in the comments.
Stuff back there. I don't know how much he wants to be known. I want to call him by the phonetical alphabet, Alpha Mike.
Alpha Mike, there we go.
Alpha Mike, I like that.
So I'm sorry,
Hashtag
brother.
Alpha Mike.
No, we're gonna do awesome things. But yeah, and thanks to our guests, we'll open to have you guys on again for sure, to come back and talk about the news, talk about the things you guys are doing. So let's start with Alexis. Tell people everywhere they can find you. Leave a quick message, whatever you want to talk about right now, real quick.
Yeah, I can drop it in the comments, but you can follow me at Rooted in Wild 2 on TikTok, and then Cup of Sense on YouTube. Doesn't have anything yet, but that's eventually where the podcast is going to be. So I would appreciate if we just start getting over there.
Incredible. John.
Yeah. Well, like I sometimes say, before you follow me, follow Jesus Christ. If afterwards you still want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter or X at John Frankman FL. That's John Frankman, Florida. Same handle for Instagram, trying to build a Facebook page too, and my website's johnfrankman.com. So appreciate whatever support. We'll see where life takes me, but love to have your support in the future.
Excellent. David, where can people find you?
Absolutely. I am David Webster across multiple socials. I think if you just do David.Webster, I don't know how I managed to score that with all the David Websters in the world, but if you do that on Instagram with no number, you'll come up to me. Otherwise, you can find me on X at 50Webster. And I believe that my TikTok is the same.
Excellent. What kind of message do you want to leave with people real quick?
Oh, absolutely. Read your Bibles. 2.4 million of you just bought new Bibles. Make sure you're digging into those, dig into the Word. Find that truth that you're in your life that you need to better center yourself, and that's what's going to heal the things that are, no politician, no policy is going to fix those things, but what you find between those pages will.
Excellent. AK.
Yep. You can follow me on X, Instagram, and Facebook at Real AK Kamara. You can also follow me on TikTok at AK Kamara. I put out content like a machine. I have, I think, over 700 videos. If you like to listen to the radio, every Friday on Twin Cities News Talk, which you can listen on the iHeartRadio, the John Justice Show. I'm on every Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. You can find me there. Most of the time, you're going to find me musing things on X because I think it's like the best platform ever. So you'll usually find me there posting funny memes, my terrible sense of humor, which most things are only funny to me. And once in a while, people get what I'm talking about because my brain's just weird. And the last thing is, no matter what you do when it comes to politics, just don't have this idea that like being involved in the political process are for elites. Like it is for whoever steps up to the plate. If you are unhappy with whoever your local political leaders are, show up, get involved, bring your friends and your family. And if you do that, you honestly can do a lot of work and have a lot of impact. So that's just what I always encourage people to do. And lastly, make sure that you share content that you appreciate and support and you think really reflects what you view the world through, whether that's religious content, whether that's political content. The era of legacy media is dying, and hopefully it dies soon because they lied to us, they are corrupt, and the era of independent media is here. And that's my last piece, is that I hope to be able to have that kind of impact here in the state of Minnesota. This podcast is going to be shot in Minnesota. One day we hope to be all together. We're going to have guests from all over the country, but we really do want to have a cultural impact in the state of Minnesota. And that's it for me.
Outstanding. I am Drew Outstanding. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Drew Outstanding. And yeah, that's where I talk about I used to say all the things you can't talk about on other platforms. We can do that a little bit more now. But yeah, I'm primarily on X. But at the same time, I'm also getting into adaptive sports like crazy. Last year, I qualified independent on the sit ski, on the bi-ski. And so this year, I'm going for the mono ski, which I should be able to compete on. And I have no limits right now. So I'm going to go as far as I can. Like I said, the doctor said I'd never be able to walk again. And I got braces on nowadays, but I'm not in the wheelchair. And if I can't walk, I'm going to try to fly. So that's me. On YouTube is where I post a lot of that adaptive sports on Operation Outstanding in Field on YouTube, Operation Outstanding in Field. And yeah, that's me. We're going to do awesome stuff. All of us 5 here and many out there that are going to listen on, and we're going to keep going and see what happens. So thank our guests. I appreciate both of you. We appreciate both of you, and thank my co-host and the producer in the back. This is an incredible. Have a good night. Keep fighting.